Hi, I'm John DeArmond.
And I'm Edward.
And we're with the Coquille Valley Sword Group. And today we're going to be talking about the Fukuro shinai, one of the principal training tools that we use in Hyoho Nitanichi Ryu. We're going to go over the construction, the myriad of ways that we use it both in our style and the ways that it's I've seen it used in other styles. So let's have some fun. So let's start with the construction of the Fukuro shinai. In the shinai, basically what you have is a long length of bamboo that has been split into 6 individual slats down to just before the last node. This unsplit section serves as your tsuka. Now the way I split this is I take it the splitting side up and I just use a kitchen knife, get it as close to the handle as you can, and lightly, using a wooden mallet or piece of firewood or whatever, tap it through. It'll break the node, and because bamboo is a grass, all of its bast fibers are linear, right? So it will split in a near straight line. You'll come down to the next node, you'll tap it a little bit firmer, usually on the tip of the knife that's out here flagging out, and you'll break it down. And you just won't go beyond this node. Now, traditionally, they don't have any additional reinforcement here, but I'm a sissy, so I wrap a couple lengths of duct tape on it. Now, in Hyoho, like I said, we split into 6 slats. Now, I've talked to a guy that does Yagyu Shinkashi Ryu, and he says that they do 4 all the way up, and then another 4 to make 8 in this top section to make it extra flexible. We don't do that. But I want you to know that there's variety and variation in this. So this is a new one that we've split and started to dry. Here is an older one. I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but the older one has taken quite the set, quite the curve. Yeah, from its abuse. You can also see from the tip, the older one no longer holds its round formation and shape. It's really collapsed, and while it's certainly intact, it can begin to wear the inside of the leather sock out. Now, the leather sock is the part that's kind of, you don't replace as often, right? But you can wear through it if you don't take a little bit of extra time to finesse your bamboo. So I'll take a knife and I'll cut off the corners of the tops. If your variety of bamboo is like this henin that has very sharp nodes, I'll take a file and just very lightly take off the top. Again, I'll camfer the bottom a little bit so that it's not, if I tsukate my opponent, I'm not cutting them or anything. Now, bamboo is super, super sharp when it's split like this. They use them for flensing knives, fleshing out knives in South America pretty regularly. So what I'll do is once I have the slats, I'll take my knife and I'll use it as a plane on those corners so that they're smooth and rounded. I just want to make it as safe as possible. In the bizarre event that it tears through the deer hide sleeve and cuts into the dude, I really want it to be not able to do that as much as possible. Now, the outside, this leather sleeve, I'm using deer hide because it's what we have locally. You could use cowhide, but I would want to use a thinner grade of it for our purposes. Some styles use quite thick hide on the outside, and they'll actually, we have the smooth side facing out. Other styles will have the fuzzy side facing out to give more grip. Grip is not an issue that we worry about in Hyoho. We come to the vine just easy as can be. Now, this is basically a long rectangle that is folded over on itself and laced. It has one long lace and it just goes over and under and over and under and over and under all the way down. You get down to the end and you take the excess and you just throw half hitches in it all the way down. right? They say 3 half hitches to die to the devil. Well, we've got like 8 here to really pin him down, I guess. Now, in its use in Hyoho, the lacing serves as a representative guide of our mune, the spine of our sword. In other styles, it serves as the edge. And so you think, okay, well, that's the edge. You know, it's just what your style trains in, how they do it. You know, again, a lot of people think that there's a lot of homogeneity, sameness in Japanese fencing, and that's just not the case. I mean, there are shared elements, but even in those elements, they're often executed wildly differently between the styles. So you guys on the internet with your "this is the right way," you know, just maybe sit back and
for them it's the right way.
Go train some more. Yeah, exactly. For them, it might be the right way. So next, what we'll do is we'll look at different ways we use the Fukuro shinai as a training tool. Now, it is worth mentioning, in Hyoho, we do have a shoto Fukuro, which is constructed exactly the same way, just shorter, right? Yeah, nothing fancy. I've seen ones that are tanto size. I don't see the point in them. I've seen ones that are naginata size, and
I can see that.
Yeah, I can see that. I haven't seen a Yari one, but you know, it's different direction of force. So whatever. In Hyoho, we don't use them. We just use for the long sword and the short sword. So yeah, let's go ahead and move on to some of the uses. So there are several ways to use the Fukuro shinai. We'll start kind of at the most basic and move to the most challenging, right? So in the beginning, generally we'll introduce people to the Fukuro shinai by doing drills related to a single piece of waza, individual work or technique. So for example, I'll throw Kiryotoshi, a downward cut, and then he's going to ukinagashi to one side and cut, and then he's going to ukinagashi to the other side and cut, and each time we kind of reset, right? We've taken one tiny piece of a kata and we're just practicing it with repetition to refine it without having to think about all the other kata stuff, right? So he's down in Gedan, I'm up in Hasso, I cut, he ukinagashis, right? And then we go back, and I cut, and he ukinagashis, right? And we would go on and on and on with sort of innumerable variations, whether we're doing variations just on the ukinagashi, like where it is used as a cut rather than a reception, or if we're doing other pieces of waza. For example, the poken sasen, the stepping off the line into koshimi hanmi, the cut in the hasso katas that you've seen so far, the hasso uke, right? The block that we showed. You can take any individual piece of work and turn it into a drill like this to refine a person's skill with that individual part, right? From there, we start to get a little bit more complex. And we'll do, let's say, the entire kata. Like, so if we are going to do, let's say, hasso hirari, right? So with this, normally I am trying to do everything in my power to make sure that this interaction is safe for both the student and myself. But with the Fukuro shinai, you're basically out of danger, so it's good to try and thwart them a little bit so that they can work with the kata under pressure. Again, kata is not a direct analogy to combat, but it's useful in training. And in the same way, right, doing this doesn't train him for the stress of combat, but it does teach him and give him the opportunity to deal with stress while he's trying to do some fancy ninja bullshit, right? So he can get a better sense of how to sort of self-regulate and self-manage his own internal tempo and state, right? So again, He's up in Hasso, I'm up in Hasso. We step, doing no pause, hip. And so he goes, ha, I got hit. So he knows he needs to either adjust his timing, adjust his relationship, or adjust his position, right? And this Fukuro shinai work is how you start to get to see that. So we'll do one more. We'll do, what do you want to do? You want to do ukanagashi?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you're going to do an ukanagashi. Hidari, migi, doesn't really matter, right? And again, it's no pause, ba, ba, yep, yep, hop, right? And so he's able to sort of test his distance, observe timing and rhythm at a fast speed, but still in a controlled situation. This
It was too fast.
a little too fast, a little too close, but it's okay, right? It's rarely perfect, right? Doesn't mean you don't work for it, right? Mediocrity is like the dirtiest word in in our method.
Well, that's good enough.
Yeah, no, none of that. So even when you pull it off, just dead on, perfect, if your skill level is high enough, you'll be able to see where you could improve, right? Because there's always a better way of doing it, right? And as long as you tirelessly hunt that better way, you'll do pretty well. Unless you're inept, right? There's nothing for you. So, after the kata work, we want to start giving the students more freedom to play and break outside of the sort of crib of kata that keeps students safe and lets them begin to experience, right? And the first types of drills that we do to sort of allow that freedom are feeding drills. Now, feeding drills often look like sparring, but they are not, right? In other words, when we're sparring, we're both trying to get some success, right? We're both using all of our ability or focused on whatever we're individually trying to train to take the other guy at basically our best level. With feeding, there's still an uchidachi, there's still an attacking sword. And so I'll beat the attacking sword for this. And what I'm doing is I just throw attacks at him. I think about my safety for sure, but I'm not necessarily trying to win. Mostly I'm trying to give him things to work with, problems to solve, right? I want to challenge him. I want to, if I know that he's got a difficulty in one area, I want to harass that area until he figures out for himself how to resolve it, right? So, again, I'll be uchidachi, and this is more free-formed. He doesn't know what I'm going to do. I don't really know what I'm going to do until I start doing it. And this is good, because in the beginning, or not, in the middle, a person can do the kata, they can do the kata with the Fukuro shinai, they think, well, in this box I can do well, but if we try and do free play, my work falls apart. Why is that? They're still learning to, and this is super important, right? So, open the ears. The reason that people have such a hard time in doing completely free play work, the real work, is not because they're not skillful usually, unless their instructors just move them into that, far beyond what they were ready. It's because they try and micromanage the fight. They spend too much time trying to choose, right? If I have to choose, if Eddie's attacking me, and I have to choose where I'm going and how I respond, I'm always going to be caught behind. He is always going to be faster than me because I cannot think and act in the time it takes him to just act. It doesn't matter if I have the initiative, right? Because, I may start with the initiative, whoop, and he responds, and I will immediately catch, in the next moment, I'll be equal timing with him, and then in the next interchange, I'll be in third timing.
Half step behind.
Exactly. I'll be after you, and it just doesn't work well. So as we start to do the feeding drill, he gets the opportunity to see how dumb his brain is, right? How slow it is. This is not to say that there is not a time to use your brain and to use your mind and to think through a problem and to make a very specific tactical choice. There are lots of opportunities. But a little medicine is good. A lot of medicine is poison, right? You have to know when to apply your tools, whether they're your sword or your mind, right? So, for demonstration, I'll feed some work to Eddie, and he'll work as he pleases. Whoop, bah. So sometimes we'll come to a position and I'll pause for a little bit. I'll give him, especially in the beginning, an opportunity to figure out how to problem solve. So if we come to the mind, right, he's got to figure out, how do I handle this? Am I pushing it hard? Am I kind of soft, right? Because if I'm soft and he tries to go soft, I can take him, right? But if I'm going hard and he tries to go hard, right, again, I can take him if my skill level is higher than his, right? Irregardless of our physical strength almost. So,
because it comes down to geometry at one
yeah, exactly. So, again, right, whoop, ha, right? This is also a time that you can, depending on the mental state of your partner, demonstrate the efficacy of some of the ideas. So in that last hit, I hit him in the half beat, right? I worked, I paused, I made him think, okay, the interchange is over, he starts to move, bam, right in the half. Because this lets people see and experience for themselves what they're trying to do to other people, so they understand the kind of reaction that it evokes inside of us. Because if you haven't been hit in the half beat, you don't really understand how
the half beat is.
It's frustrating. It's so frustrating because it's this awkward time and it makes you feel like a klutz.
And it feels like witchcraft sometimes.
It does, because here they come and it's not a fast cut, right? It's just dumpty dump, and you can't get out of the way of it. You're like, oh, it's slow motion car wreck. It's crazy. So this kind of feeding work is very useful. And again, you can do this at speeds appropriate to your student's level. So in the beginning, you might be feeding them fairly slowly so they can get a sense of, right, distance and timing, and how to relate to an opponent in harmony. Because everybody thinks that you have to go fast, like the fastest person wins. And this is, it's juvenile. It's a juvenile understanding of fighting. It's not to say speed is bad, but speed poorly applied is...
Speed for the sake of speed.
Yeah, speed for the sake of speed is hugely detrimental to your efficacy, right? It's the same thing with power, right? Yeah, having a lot of power, being able to pick up a 300-pound dude with one arm, that's a pretty cool thing. But if you don't know how to apply it effectively into your opponent, it can be turned back against you. And it's rough then, right? We don't want the things that we're good at to become a detriment to us in a fight, because it's just one more thing to worry about. So, kind of the next level, the not final level, but the typically top level is free play. Just complete, sparring isn't really the right word, because there are sort of two types of this. One, we're messing around, right?
See what works.
And so I might cut at him, right? And I'm doing things that aren't necessarily
productive?
It's not that they're necessarily productive. It's that I am not trying to 100% win with every swing. I'm prolonging the interaction, right? Because most of us, from the kata, get used to when a person works at you, right? You can make one motion, bam, and get him, right? But when you go to do some motion and they thwart it, right? And suddenly you're like, oh, I did things, but you get stuck because you can't, not necessarily chain them together, but your sword work is still foreign to your body, and so it's not, you don't move naturally. Like if you're walking through a crowd of people and there are people in the way, you naturally move out of the way you don't have to think about it too much, right? Your sword work has to be the same, or you're working to where it'll be the same. And unfortunately, that's one of the things that kata doesn't teach very well, is this, I move, I'm still moving, I never stop moving. Even if my position is still for an instant, I'm not stationary. I don't puzzle piece lock into place and go, this is where I belong, and work, because he's going to take me, or his friends are going to take me, right? The other way of doing this complete free play is to work for real, right? And just to work dead on and just get the work done and really let loose and see what you can do. So we're going to, and it's, the funny thing is, the latter is a lot less dramatic, right? It is a lot less interesting to watch. It's just because it's over, right? It happens and it's done.
It doesn't look very fancy.
No, it's not very fancy. You know, Tom Cruise wouldn't look good doing it, right? So we're going to demonstrate the two types. The first type is, again, that sort of free play. So we're starting, we're working, we're like, all right. Right? Into the face.
Don't lead with the face.
Right?
Oh, that's a little
And work with your timings, right? See, if the person's working, right? Can you work in that first timing? Can you catch them before they work, right? Work in the second timing and kind of wait for them, right? And cut at the same time the sword does pop, right? And see how you can drive it. Or work after, right? You're working and come behind them and see how you can work. You play with it and you have fun, right? It's a game. It's a game and you're there to have fun. The easier your heart is with this work, for one, the easier your stamina, your breathing is going to be, right? Because if you're sitting here going like, right, you'll get winded so quick, and your air is your stamina. If you don't breathe, you're just going to gas yourself, and the dude's going to take you, right?
or do the opposite and just go nuts and flail around.
Yeah, well, and useless action is of course useless, but this is the time to play with it and see, what is the consequence of me taking a cut too far? What are the consequences of me getting my distance poor? Whether too short or too close. How can they work against me? How can they take me down because of my error, right? So, while, of course, you've come to a person to train, in doing so, you usually spend your money, your time, you make an investment because you have faith or believe in this teacher's skill. And so it's important to go, I don't know any better. You seem to be an expert. I'm going to listen to you. But there comes a point when you have to test your work. You have to test what they're saying, right? Not just because it could be fraudulent or fake or not working, but because it may not be as applicable to you and your body type. Because you got to remember, this is not Japanese fencing is Japanese, right? There is a lot of cultural baggage isn't the right word, but there's a lot of cultural context behind it. This is the same kind of culture that goes, oh, you were born writing left-handed. That's nice, not anymore, right? The nail that stands up gets hammered down. And so it doesn't matter if your body type's not good to throw this cut, you're going to throw it anyway. And it doesn't matter if you suck at this cut, it's the cut that you're going to throw because that's how it is because we say so and you're part of the group. And now, not all styles are like that, right? Among, especially Koryu that are practiced in the modern age, it's mostly practiced by weirdos, right? People who have kept this archaic, brutal tradition alive, right? And so they tend to be a little bit more free-spirited. They go against the grain, and there's more of an opportunity to really work on the work that's going to be best for you. in some styles. Other styles, they're real hard-nosed still. They're rigid. They're going, you do exactly like this. This is our tradition, and you should be grateful that you're part of it, right? So, but in Hyoho, we're not that way, right? We're rebels. Just rebels with our floppy samurai hair, right?
Right.
So, that was the first type of free play work. Let's do the second, where we're just working to win. Now, I'm working to win, but so is Eddie, right? He wants to win too. No one wants to
Probably take one to the face.
die into that. Yeah, he's got to protect the brains, right? So, again, right? We work, and we choose, right? So, we work, right? And we choose. We take our time, maybe. We can come just straight in and be all like, oh, right? Catch him in a half beat. You can play however you want, but it's important to have these times where you're just going in to win. One, because it helps you secure your mindset. Because your mindset when you're playing with a dude is real open. Real free, right? I mean, yeah, you try and do fun stuff and fancy stuff, and you want to tease your partner a bit, and you know, you can be a little competitive. But the mental feeling when, Riz, thank you, my dog. The mental feeling when you're going in to finish the work is different. It's direct, right? It waits. You see? Moving fast is not always important. A lot of times, they will move fast right out of your way. They'll come to get you, and then they'll go, I'm going somewhere else. Whop. And you can work them, right? But there's this feeling, right? When it comes to, right? Right? There's this, I'm getting the work done. And it doesn't mean direct, right? I can go around, pop up, and take a large sort of almost circular route to get to it. It isn't necessarily a drive. It is, it's a commitment, right?
So it works.
Yeah. To work, right? And to get used to that. Plus, a lot of people don't realize we can get very comfortable in kata, where we have little to no tension, and we're just nice. We're easy. The cuts feel good, and they feel great. Then maybe we're introduced to tamashigiri, and we start cutting practice, right? And we go, why? Because we want to cut through the target. What do you do when you want to do something? You try to do it. And the more you try to do it, the more you get locked up, right? Maybe you overcome that with a lot of practice, eventually, hopefully. But then you're working against a dude, and you've got that feeling like, I want to win. I want to win right now. And you go, right? And you're just too tense. It's so visible. Like, if you want someone to see, like if you're trying to throw a feint or something and the other guy's just not catching it, bulk up a little bit, right? Put yourself into a little bit of tension, and they catch on to it right away. It's a big red flag. It catches their eye, and they'll tag you, right? So you want to be able to develop that feeling of taking the person, but with ease, right? You need ease. And that's hard, right? Because for one, it's hard to have an easy time if you're scared, right? If Eddie's swinging at me, right? And I'm scared of this thing, then it's like magic. It doesn't have to touch me before it starts to break my work apart, right? I start to break apart from the very beginning. Whether I'm cutting, whether I'm defending, whether I'm moving around, doesn't really matter. He can control me just with my own fear of the item. So I have to get to a point, right, to where I'm not terrified by it. Now this is when you don't know this thing, it can sound very macho. Like, I'm not scared. Ugh. It's not what it is at all, right? You can think about your stove in your home. You turn on your stove and you have glowing red hot metal, right by you. You're going to be playing around it. You're going to be doing things with it. You're going to be putting things on it. You don't have terror, right? It doesn't terrify you. You know to be cautious, right? You know that if you put your hand on that, you're going to have a real rough time. It's the same thing with this, right? Yeah, I know that it's dangerous. I'm aware of it. But I also know, it's not so bad, right? How it's dangerous, how it behaves. Because I understand the thing, and I've come to accept it, then I can work without terror, right? I still work with caution. I want to be mindful, because if I ignore this and just like, all right, he's going to take me, of course, and then it's just empty bravado. So don't think that Fukuro shinai are only shinai and shinai, right? You could do anything. You could do tanto work, right? You can do open-handed work. You can do anything that challenges the person, that makes them a little uncomfortable, right? Because we have to be uncomfortable now, when we're in safety. Because if we wait, until we fall into our time machine and go back to the Sengoku and some crazy samurais come at us for us to feel comfortable in a sword fight, of course we're going to get taken, right? And again, one school. Apply it to everything, right? You're the type of person who's uncomfortable talking to people, right? You're going to wait until you absolutely have to talk to a person in a job interview or with a prospective mate or whatever. It's kind of the wrong time to get to know your tools and to get to understand how you react to it, right? So apply it. Push yourself. Take yourself to uncomfortable positions and study yourself. See who you are, right? See who you are with people. How do you relate to them? How do you work with them, And yeah, it's rough. It's uncomfortable. No one wants to do it. But I think the alternative is a little bit worse. So that is by no means it for Fukuro shinai. We in Yoho have 5 technique drills just for Fukuro shinai. They're nito to work on blocking and cutting in kind of the same motion, but we're not going to go over them. Just because if you understand the basic concept of take a part of the kata and practice it, you don't need special additional kata on top of it. You don't need standardized drills. In fact, I'm kind of against standardized drills. I like students and teachers to actually look at their opponent and think for a second, go, what does this person need? How can I work on this person, right? Because it makes you better at assessing people that you have to work on or work with. Both are pretty valuable skills. Is there anything else that you think we should add, Mr. Eddie? Nope. Okay. So that's it for Fukuro shinai for right now. Next week, we will move into the ukenagashi kata set. Ukenagashi is just like haso in that there is a hidari and a migi, right? So, hidari and migi. And it is where we're introduced to the first very open, very visible defensive work of Hyoho. But in the same way, haso is offensive with a hidden defense. Ukenagashi is the reverse, right? And it's a pretty important piece of Hyoho. So look forward to it. As always, the Fukuro shinai, they're easy to make. They're very inexpensive. If you're going, where do I get deer hide, right? You can buy it online. When I eventually have to remake these, I will probably source some kangaroo leather because it is a little bit more robust, a little bit more forgiving than the deer hide. That being said, I mean, these are 5 years old now, and there's just a little bit of wear on the socks.
Yeah, they're getting there sometimes.
But yeah, if you understand this sport, you've got to pick up a sword and go train.